The message came without warning. It appeared on every screen, every communication channel, every station orbiting Earth and the colonies beyond. A towering alien figure with pale skin and metallic armor spoke in a cold, commanding voice. Behind him stood banners of the Empire, sharp golden symbols glowing in the dark. His words were simple but heavy like chains. Humanity will bow, humanity will serve. Refuse, and you will be destroyed. Across the world, leaders gathered in silence. In the great chamber of the United Earth Council, the atmosphere was tense. Generals sat rigid, scientists leaned forward, politicians exchanged nervous glances. No one dared to break the silence at first. The weight of the Empire's demand pressed on their chests. The Empire was old. It ruled over hundreds of worlds. It had crushed countless species, breaking their will and bending them to serve. To the aliens, humanity was only the next name on a long list. They expected obedience, nothing else. They believed Earth was weak, divided, and too young to resist. But, as the council sat in silence, there was something different in their eyes. Humanity had faced empires before. History was carved with chains and wars, and history had taught them one truth. Humans never stayed on their knees for long. General. Alvarez broke the silence. His voice was low, steady, almost calm. They think we will kneel. They think we will break. He looked around the table, his eyes sharp. But they do not understand who we are. On the screens above them, the alien emissary continued, speaking. His voice was filled with arrogance. Submit, and you will be allowed to live under our protection. Resist, and your worlds will burn. Choose wisely, humans. The council chamber filled with whispers. Some argued in fear. The Empire's fleet was enormous. Their weapons were older than Earth's civilizations. A direct fight would be suicide. Others clenched their fists in anger. To surrender was worse than death. To live as slaves under alien rule was no life at all. Among them was Dr. Marlowe, a scientist from the Lunar Academy. Her voice trembled, but it was strong. Every species that bowed to them disappeared. Their cultures erased. Their history's forgotten. If we bow, humanity will vanish too. Not by fire, but by silence. The room grew colder. The weight of truth pressed on every soul. President Okoye, leader of the council, finally rose. She was calm, her voice controlled, but her eyes carried steel. We were given a demand, to bow or to burn. She paused, letting the silence stretch. I say we choose neither. We do not bow and we do not burn. We fight. The council erupted. Some shouted in support, others in fear. But the decision was taking shape, heavy and unstoppable. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would stand. Far beyond Earth, in the depths of space, the Empire's fleet was already moving. Their ships were massive, their formations endless. They had crushed rebellions 100 times before. To them this was routine. Another young species refusing the order of things. Another small flame to be snuffed out. But Earth was not routine. Earth was not ordinary. In the hidden hangars of Mars, human warships came alive. Engines roared to life. Shields flared. Weapons loaded. Soldiers strapped into their stations. Pilots whispered promises to the void. Families on Earth watched their loved ones march to the stars. Fear was heavy, but so was pride. One soldier, Captain Elias Ward, stood at the bridge of his ship. His crew waited for his command. He remembered the words of the alien emissary, the demand to bow, the promise of chains. His jaw tightened. Let them come, he said softly. They will learn what humans are made of. Back in the council chamber, the alien transmission flickered. The emissary's voice echoed one last time. Submit or be destroyed. His image vanished, leaving only silence. President Okoye looked at the faces around her. She saw fear, yes, but also fire. She raised her hand and spoke the words that would mark the beginning of war. Send our answer. Across the system, a signal was broadcast. Short, clear, impossible to mistake. Humanity's reply to the Empire's demand was only 2 words: we refuse. The message raced through space, reaching the alien fleet before they arrived at Earth. Commanders of the Empire read it with disbelief. No one refused. No one ever refused. But humanity had. On Earth, in the colonies, in the ships preparing for battle, people felt the shift. The world had chosen its path. There was no turning back now. Above the night sky, the stars burned cold. Somewhere in that darkness, war was already moving closer. The Empire expected obedience. Instead, it would find humanity's fury waiting at its gates. The Empire did not wait long. The humans had given their answer, and that answer was refusal. To the rulers of the Empire, it was more than defiance, it was insult. No species had ever dared to speak such words to them. The Council of the Empire demanded punishment, not warning. Their fleets were summoned. From the outer edges of the Orion Arm, an armada moved. Massive warships shaped like blades cut through the void. Their engines glowed with ancient power, their hulls carved with the history of 1,000 victories. At the front flew dreadnoughts, ships so large they could crush a planet's defenses alone. Behind them came carriers, frigates, destroyers, all painted in the cold silver of the Empire. The swarm was endless. On Mars, humanity watched them approach. The first signal came from the telescopes at Phobos Station. Contact. Fleet size. Immeasurable. The officer could barely speak the numbers. Thousands of ships. A storm in the darkness. Fear spread like fire, but no one dared show weakness. The Empire was coming, and the first strike would decide if humanity had any chance at survival. In the war room on Earth, President Okoye stood with her generals. The holographic display showed the swarm drawing closer every hour. General Alvarez leaned on the table, his hands tight. They will come with everything. They want to break us in one blow. His voice carried no fear, only calculation. If we can survive their first strike, if we can make them bleed, then we will have hope. Every soldier, every pilot, every commander understood. The first clash would not be for victory. It would be for survival. Across the colonies, humans prepared. On Titan, children were hidden deep beneath the ice. On the lunar cities, alarms wailed as civilians were evacuated into shelters. On Earth, millions gathered in squares watching the skies. The world stood still, waiting. In orbit above Mars, Captain Elias Ward's ship, the Resolute, floated in silence. Around him, the fleet of Earth's defense forces formed ranks. They were small compared to the Empire, a fraction of their size, but they carried something no alien fleet had ever faced. They carried the human spirit. His crew sat ready, their faces pale but eyes steady. Ward walked to the viewing glass. Beyond the stars, he could almost feel the enemy moving closer. "Captain," his second officer whispered, "they will outnumber us 10-1. Ward did not look away from the stars. Then every one of us will have to count for 10. The first clash came at the edge of the asteroid belt. The Empire's fleet poured into the system like a tide of metal. Their dreadnoughts blazed with light, weapons primed. At the center of the swarm, a signal was sent. Begin. The Empire's first strike fell like a hammer. Beams of energy lit the void, tearing through asteroids, burning rock into vapor. Missiles streaked through space like falling stars. Entire fields of stone shattered under their firepower. The Empire did not waste time. They aimed directly at Mars. On Mars, alarms rang louder. The defense grid roared to life. Cannons hidden under the red sands rose and fired. Great beams of plasma arched into the void, cutting into the first wave of alien destroyers. The sky above Mars filled with light as the first battles began. The Resolute shook as enemy fire passed close. Ward gripped the railing. "Hold the line. Do not give them an inch." His fleet surged forward. Human ships darted between asteroids, using cover, using speed. The Empire had numbers, but the humans had cunning. A squadron of fighters streaked past the Resolute, young pilots, hearts racing, voices steady. "This is Eagle Squadron, targets locked. Their fighters dived straight into the swarm, weaving between enemy guns, firing missiles into the weak points of massive ships. Explosions lit the dark. The Empire's commanders stared in disbelief. These humans were not running, they were charging, but the cost was heavy. One by one, human ships were struck. Fire tore across their hulls. Pilots screamed into broken radios before vanishing in silence. The Empire's power was overwhelming, and every loss was a wound that cut deep. Yet even in death, humans made their enemies bleed. A single frigate, burning from nose to stern, rammed itself into an alien cruiser. Both ships exploded, tearing others apart in the blast. On Earth, the people watched the live feed. Families clutched each other, watching sons and daughters fight in the stars. Fear mixed with pride. Humanity was outnumbered, but they were not broken. Every explosion in the sky became a promise. We will not bow. In the war room, General Alvarez spoke through the comms. His voice was hard, sharp, unshaken. We cannot match them ship for ship. We must strike at their pride, target their flagships, cut off their command. Ward's eyes narrowed. He looked at the display. The Empire's dreadnought loomed at the center, larger than any mountain on Earth. That is our target, he said. The crew stared at him in silence. To attack the dreadnought was madness, but madness was all humanity had left. The first strike was not over. It was only the beginning. As the stars burned with fire and metal, humanity made its stand. The Empire expected Earth to bow in fear. Instead, it had found warriors with nothing to lose. And as the void shook with battle, one truth became clear to the Empire's commanders. The humans were not prey, they were predators. The first strike had been brutal, but humanity was still standing. The Empire expected a quick collapse, a surrender born from terror. Instead, the void had turned into a furnace where humans refused to break. Smoke and fire trailed behind wrecked ships, but the humans held their line. From the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias Ward stared at the battlefield. Enemy cruisers loomed on every side. Their silver hulls glowed as plasma cannons charged again. The stars themselves seemed to vanish under the storm of fire. Ward's voice cut through the chaos. Stay sharp, stay moving. Make them chase you, make them bleed. His crew nodded, hands flying across controls, their faces set with grim focus. The human fleet fought like no other. Alien fleets were slow, methodical, built on discipline and fear. But the humans fought with chaos. Their ships darted between wreckage, struck from shadows, then vanished. They sacrificed order for unpredictability, and in that storm of confusion, the Empire began to falter. An alien commander aboard the dreadnought watched with growing unease. He had studied 100 species, crushed dozens of rebellions, and none had fought this way. His voice hissed through the command chamber. These creatures, they are reckless. They are insane. But his officers could not deny the truth. Every time the humans struck, more of the Empire's ships burned. Small, fast corvettes zipped between their larger cruisers, planting mines and detonating them at close range. Fighters swarmed like hornets, attacking weak points, forcing the giants of the Empire to turn and waste precious firepower. On Mars, defense cannons thundered. Towers hidden beneath the soil rose and spat beams of plasma that pierced the heavens. Dozens of enemy frigates fell in burning shards, crashing into the red dust. The ground itself seemed to fight for humanity. Yet, the cost was heavy. Human ships were fewer, and every loss was felt like a knife to the heart. A frigate called Iron Dawn took a direct hit. Its engines exploded in silence, scattering the ship into burning fragments. Hundreds of lives gone in an instant. The crew of the Resolute watched the explosion with hard faces. They mourned silently, but they did not stop fighting. Ward clenched his jaw. Signal all ships. Prepare for counterstrike. We are going for their throat. The comms filled with static, then the voices of captains across the fleet. Some were calm, some were filled with rage, but all carried the same words. Aye, Captain. For Earth. The human fleet shifted. Instead of retreating, they surged forward. Engines flared blue as warships turned their bows toward the Empire's dreadnought at the center of the swarm. The Empire's commanders froze in shock. No one charged a dreadnought, not with such a small fleet. It was madness. But humanity had already chosen madness over submission. The clash became savage. Beams of light tore through space, shredding metal and flesh alike. Explosions painted the void in red and gold. Missiles streaked from human destroyers, slamming into alien shields, shaking even the mightiest cruisers. The Empire fired back, their cannons scorching through rows of human ships. For every alien ship destroyed, 2 humans fell, but still they pressed forward. Inside the Resolute, alarms screamed. Hull breaches tore through the lower decks. Sparks rained from broken consoles. Officers shouted damage reports, but Ward's voice cut above them all. Ignore it. Focus fire on that dreadnought, every gun, every missile. The dreadnought was a monster. Its hull was layered in black steel, its shields pulsing with energy. It spat fire that destroyed everything in its path. But the humans would not turn away. They aimed straight for its heart. Fighters screamed across its surface, dropping payloads into cracks of armor. Corvettes rammed into its flanks, detonating in blinding flashes. The Resolute itself fired volley after volley, its cannons glowing red with heat. The dreadnought shuddered. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial flagship bled. On the bridge of the dreadnought, the alien commander gripped his throne with trembling claws. He had seen fear in others, never in himself. But now, as alarms echoed through his ship, and flames erupted in the distance, he felt something cold settle in his chest. These humans, he whispered, they fight as if they do not fear death. And that truth terrified him more than any weapon. Back on Earth, the live feed showed the impossible. The massive dreadnought, symbol of the Empire's power, was shaking under human fire. The people of Earth roared, their voices rising in streets and shelters. For the first time, hope burned stronger than fear, but victory was still far away. The Empire's swarm closed tighter, determined to crush the humans before more damage could be done. Ships fell one after another. The battlefield became a graveyard of burning wreckage. The void screamed with metal and fire. Ward stood tall, his hands steady, his voice like steel. We may fall today, he said to his crew, but we will make them remember us. They will never forget the day humans fought. The crew answered with a single word. Aye. The clash of fire and steel raged on. The Empire had expected obedience. Instead, it found madness. Instead, it found fury. And as the battle burned hotter, one truth became clear. The humans were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The battle at Mars had ended, but the war had only just begun. Against all logic, humanity had held its ground. The Empire had expected to crush Earth's fleet in a single blow, to break their spirit with overwhelming force. Instead, the humans had bloodied them. The great dreadnought still stood, but its scars burned like shame across the Empire. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's rulers felt something they had forgotten: fear. In the council chambers of Earth, the mood was different. The losses had been heavy. Thousands dead, entire ships gone, but the people no longer spoke of surrender. Instead, they spoke of revenge. Humanity had tasted the blood of giants, and now they hungered for more. President Okoye's words echoed across every channel. They thought we would kneel. Instead, we stand. Now we take the war to them. It was madness. The Empire still had fleets upon fleets, while Earth's navy was small, scattered, still learning. But madness was the weapon of mankind, and madness was what had carried them through the first strike. Factories roared on Earth and Mars. Shipyards lit up the skies as engineers worked day and night. Every scrap of metal was turned into armor, every line of code into weapons. Young men and women rushed to enlist, ready to take the fight across the stars. Humanity had awakened, and nothing could put it back to sleep. Captain Elias Ward stood on the deck of the Resolute. The ship bore scars from the battle, its hull patched, its engine strained, but it still lived. His crew walked the halls with silent pride. They had fought the Empire and survived. That alone was a victory no one had believed possible. Ward looked out at the stars and whispered, "Now we make them pay." The first human counterattack came swift and sharp. Instead of waiting for the Empire's next move, human fleets jumped into enemy territory. Small at first, raids on outposts, ambushes in dark nebulae. Alien supply lines burned. Carriers that once moved unchallenged now vanished in fire. The Empire tried to crush the raiders, but the humans were shadows, striking and vanishing before the giants could react. Entire colonies under the Empire's control watched in awe. They had lived under chains for generations, believing no one could defy the masters of the galaxy. But now whispers spread from star to star. The humans fight. The humans do not bow. Hope, a forgotten fire, began to stir in alien hearts. The Empire grew desperate. More fleets were dispatched, more soldiers sent to hunt the humans. But for every strike, humanity answered with greater fury. At the Battle of Raylos Rift, a single human destroyer lured an entire Imperial fleet into a collapsing asteroid field. The explosions tore through the aliens' lines, leaving their ships shattered while the destroyer slipped away. At the siege of Vera Station, human marines stormed the stronghold with nothing but stolen weapons and sheer will, capturing it against impossible odds. Every victory carved the same message into the galaxy: humans do not yield. On the capital world of the Empire, the High Lords gathered in anger. Reports filled the chambers, each one darker than the last. A lord slammed his clawed hand against the table. "This species is young. They should be weak. Why do they not break?" The answer came from an old general, his voice low, almost afraid. "Because they do not fear death. They fight as if life is nothing and freedom is everything. That makes them more dangerous than any fleet." Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Ward watched his crew grow harder with each battle. Young recruits became veterans in weeks, their eyes colder, their voices sharper. The war was carving humanity into something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. During one raid, the Resolute cornered an alien cruiser near the edge of a red dwarf system. The alien commander begged for mercy. Certain humans would enslave or slaughter his crew. Instead, Ward gave them a single choice: leave the Empire and live free, or stay loyal and die here. The alien crew surrendered. Word spread faster than fire. Not only did humans fight, but they offered freedom where the Empire offered chains. Ward stood with his officers one night, staring at the map of stars glowing before them. The lines of the Empire stretched wide, choking entire galaxies. But now cracks were appearing. "We will break them," he said quietly. "Not just their ships, but their pride. They will remember humanity not as prey, but as the fire that burned their empire to ash." His words settled over the room like prophecy. The crew nodded. They believed, not because of orders, but because they had seen what humans could do when pushed against the wall. The wrath of humanity was rising, and the galaxy had no shield against it. The galaxy had changed. What began as a demand for submission had turned into a war that no one could stop. The Empire, once proud and untouchable, now bled across every star system. Fleets burned, colonies rebelled. Fear spread through halls that once knew only arrogance. And at the center of it all was humanity. The final march began when the human fleet gathered near the edge of Imperial space. Dozens of ships, scarred but unbroken, floated in silence. Their banners carried the mark of Earth, their crews hardened by endless battles. They were fewer in number than the enemy, but their eyes carried fire stronger than any weapon. Captain Elias Ward stood at the bridge of the Resolute. His ship was patched with scars, its hull a living memory of war, but its heart still beat strong. Around him, his officers waited. They all knew what came next. Ahead lay the capital of the empire, the jewel of its pride, the heart of its power. President Okoye's voice reached every channel, every soldier, every civilian waiting across the colonies. This is our moment. The empire thought we would bow, they thought we would break. Today we show them that humanity does not kneel. Today we show the galaxy what fury truly means. The order was given. The fleet jumped. When the humans emerged, the capital system blazed before them. The imperial world hung like a dark crown, its skies wrapped with defense grids, its orbit filled with ships beyond counting. Dreadnoughts, carriers, entire armadas waited to strike. The enemy's numbers filled the void like an ocean of steel. Ward's crew stared in silence. The odds were impossible. The Empire had gathered everything, left to defend their throne. But Ward did not tremble. His voice was iron. They want us afraid, they want us to doubt. But we have come too far for fear. Raise our banner. Let them see who stands at their gates. The human fleet surged forward. Engines roared. Weapons came alive. The clash began with a roar that shook the stars. The Empire struck first. Waves of firepower poured from their lines, a storm meant to drown the invaders. But the humans met it head-on. Shields flared, ships twisted through the fire, answering with volleys of their own. Explosions lit the void as titans clashed, metal, ripping apart, lives vanishing in flashes of light. The Resolute charged at the front, weaving between dreadnought blasts, firing into the heart of the swarm. Ward's orders came sharp and fast. Target their command ships. Cut the head off the serpent. Across the battlefield, humans fought with reckless fury. A destroyer on the brink of collapse rammed itself into a cruiser, breaking both apart. In a fireball, fighters dove straight into enemy carriers, tearing them apart from within. Marines boarded Imperial ships, storming decks with fire in their eyes. Every human soldier carried the same thought. This ends today. Inside the halls of the Imperial capital, the lords watched in disbelief. Their fleets were countless, their weapons unmatched, yet they were losing. The humans refused to die quietly. For every ship destroyed, another struck harder. For every soldier lost, 10 more rose with vengeance. The lords, once arrogant beyond measure, now felt the weight of terror pressing into their bones. The dreadnought that had led the first strike against Mars loomed ahead. Its hull was still scarred from the battle months before. Ward locked eyes on it. All weapons fire. End this monster. The human fleet focused everything. Missiles streaked. Beams of plasma roared. Fighters swarmed its flanks, detonating payloads into its cracks. The dreadnought groaned under the assault, its shields collapsing, its armor breaking. The beast, that had once symbolized the Empire's strength, now shook with death. In one blinding explosion, it tore apart, a sun born and gone in seconds. The humans roared. The sight shattered the last of the Empire's resolve. Their lines broke. Ships scattered. The humans pressed harder, tearing through what remained. On the surface of the capital world, explosions rocked the skies as orbital defenses collapsed. Human dropships descended, landing troops across the alien city of towers and palaces. The lords tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to hide. The people they had ruled watched in silence as their masters fell. Their arrogance burned away. At the gates of the Grand Palace, Ward himself led the charge. The once mighty throne of the Empire trembled as human boots echoed across its marble floors. Ward faced the last lord, a figure once cloaked in power and fear. The alien's voice shook. You cannot do this. You are nothing. You are only humans. Ward raised his weapon, his voice cold as steel. We are enough. The throne fell. Above the planet, humanity's banner rose. Across the galaxy, chains shattered. Species long broken by the Empire saw the fire of freedom and knew it was possible. The galaxy would never be the same. The war was not without cost. Millions of humans had fallen, countless ships destroyed, but their sacrifice had written a story no one would forget. The Empire had demanded submission, and in its arrogance it had found humanity's fury waiting at its gates. In the quiet, after the storm, Ward stood once more at the bridge of the Resolute. The stars stretched endless before him. His crew watched in silence, waiting for his words. He did not speak of victory. He did not speak of conquest. He spoke of truth. We were told to bow. We chose to stand. Remember this day. Remember what it means to be human. The void was silent, but the galaxy was listening. Humanity had risen. Humanity had spoken, and its voice would never be silenced again.